The theme of today's workshop was reconnecting people with their passion and purpose from a professional perspective. And the idea was to get people to think about why they came into a career, what their expectations were, and how those expectations may have changed over time. I think some of the key messages that we wanted to get across was that we change as individuals. What's important to us at different stages in our careers changes. And that change needs to be seen across a wider backdrop of change in the work environment in terms of the health and social care environment. So there's change going on within the individual, and then there's change going on within the workplace. And it's making sense of that and somehow feeling as though you've got some influence over what happens to you in your career. I think we wanted people to continuously look for opportunities to reinvent themselves, to identify new learning opportunities, to keep learning, and to consider challenges sometimes as opportunities, but to keep looking and to be active rather than passively sit back and say, isn't it all dreadful?
For me, I'm very nicely surprised that I found exactly what I was looking for. It is the grounding, the motivation, and sometimes your career may you may meet your career goals in non-conventional ways. So that's been really, really reassuring for me, because my career hasn't been always like from A to B to C.
For me today was, and I'm on my own kind of journey at the moment, and this morning and other things I've been to recently is really helped to understand the importance of ownership for our own career development, because I think what we heard in the room today were people who are all, for various reasons, looking for something more than what they have at the moment, and it can be very tempting to look to the system to provide that and to feel devalued, and I think many people in the NHS at the moment are struggling with feeling valued. So there was something today about taking ownership of the opportunities that come our way, and actually that feeding into a sense of having autonomy and say over what happens in our career.
Sometimes the way to find something new and actually wow is in the way that you less expect. So if everything is easy, you always kind of go with the flow. But when things get difficult, you need to reinvent yourself and really find from all the negativity what can you pull out from there. And if you really don't like any of what you see, just change. I mean, you should be able to do that and be honest with yourself as well. If you're doing something that is not what you like, just find something different or make it nice.
My takeaway point was really similar to yours in that one key message that came out of it was about making the most of opportunities. So where changes are being imposed on us, and we know a lot about change in the NHS, is about seeing that as much as possible as a positive thing, being optimistic and trying to make the most of them, but also weighing that up against knowing when to stand up and say, I really don't agree with what's happening, and feeling empowered to find out what you can do to speak to the right people and have a voice about the systems that are often, it feels like, are being imposed on us. So it's striking the balance between knowing when to turn them into positive opportunities and knowing when to speak up and not just doing what we often do in the NHS and kind of experience learned helplessness.
It was really useful to think about my goals or my expectations earlier, and who I am now after 6 years on my current job. That I just want now to find a way that, together with my bosses, to see how they can make the most of me, and at the same time, for me to be progressing and satisfied. So that's my aim. I want to see how we can work it out.
My main takeaway message would probably be that it's okay not to have an idea of where you're going next, and to sort of take more ownership and control about the decisions that I can make. And I've kind of learnt that independence and autonomy is really valuable to me, and using that to make decisions about the next steps and not worrying about where the end goal is yet.